Kenny is stuck trying to choose between two cereal boxes when his superior officer, Sugar, suddenly interrupts him. Sugar orders him onto a helicopter for an upcoming mission. To mess with him, Sugar jokes that they'll be jumping out of the chopper before casually walking away, leaving Kenny even more nervous. The team is heading to a Filipino island to rescue a CIA operative who was captured while gathering intel on a Russian arms dealer. Back at base, Eddie is watching college basketball when Nia shows up and brings him to the control room. He then receives a call from his pregnant wife, who reminds him to be ready for the baby's arrival. Eddie goes back and warns the others to pick up the phone if it rings because it'll be his wife, but they're still focused on the game. Meanwhile, the helicopter approaches the landing zone. The team realizes this is only Kenny's second mission and tells him things are about to get much harder. He needs to keep up. As the green light turns red, they prepare to jump. Kenny panics during the drop but barely manages to deploy his parachute in time. They land on the beach and move toward the target location. Eddie and Nia provide drone support from base, giving them eyes on the ground. The team pushes through the jungle and links up with Eddie, sending their coordinates so he can track them on the map. Kenny admits he's actually not supposed to be on this mission and was placed there by mistake. The operation is supposed to be a rescue, but everyone knows it could turn into something far more dangerous. Bishop, in particular, clashes with Kenny. He believes drones and machines are overtaking human soldiers, while Bishop argues that in war, it doesn't matter how you kill, only that people are dying either way. Suddenly, Abel spots movement in the distance. Eddie checks it through the drone feed, but the camera malfunctions, cutting off their support. Now the team is on their own. They take positions and briefly mistake a wild pig for an enemy. After regrouping, they finally reach the objective area and spot multiple guards protecting a large tent. They spread out and prepare to strike. From his position, Kenny sets up his rifle on a small bunker and studies the enemy camp, marking guard locations. He confirms the presence of the Russian arms dealer, Petro, and the team verifies the target. Just as everything goes quiet, they notice a convoy of trucks arriving with armed men. The convoy crosses a bridge, and the team assumes they are terrorists led by a figure named Hashimi stepping out from one of the vehicles. Those trucks completely derail their plan. Back at base, Eddie is casually playing golf until he's called back into the control room. The drone is finally back online, and he receives new coordinates from Kenny, allowing him to locate the team again. From above, they watch the situation unfold on the ground, and something immediately feels off. Their suspicions are confirmed when Hashimi suddenly kills Petro right in front of everyone. The terrorists then begin executing the rest of the people, and the team is forced to watch helplessly. Strict orders prevent them from engaging. Things take a darker turn when Hashimi brings out Petro's son after killing his wife, preparing to execute him as well. Unable to sit back any longer, Eddie takes action and fires a missile from the drone. But it's too slow to stop what's happening, so the team instead shoots Hashimi in the leg to delay him. The missile finally hits the compound and destroys it. On the ground, Kenny is dangerously close to enemy fighters and has to stay completely silent while the others engage in a chaotic firefight. A grenade goes off nearby, turning the entire area into a full-scale battle as everyone tries to regroup and escape. During the chaos, Abel gets shot and can no longer fight. Kenny tries to help him, but it's already too late. Meanwhile, Sugar and Bishop get pinned down by RPG fire and struggle to hold their position. Kenny spots the truck carrying the RPG launcher and tells Eddie to take it out, but the response comes too late. An RPG strikes Sugar and Bishop, killing them before the drone missile finally destroys the truck. Now Kenny is completely alone under heavy machine gun fire. He runs through open ground into the trees, trying to escape and find cover while losing contact with Eddie and the rest of the team. Eddie eventually reconnects and realizes the rest of the squad is gone. Only Kenny is still alive, and they need to extract him immediately. The area is still swarming with hostiles, but Eddie tries to keep him calm, telling him a helicopter is on the way so he needs to keep moving. Exhausted and alone, Kenny pushes through the jungle. Suddenly, he hears a truck approaching his path. People are closing in to kill him, so Kenny sprints across a river and hides under a tree. A truck arrives on the opposite bank, and he stays completely still as the soldiers and even horseback riders cross nearby. He barely makes it out unnoticed. Elsewhere, Eddie is almost exposed when a dog picks up his scent. A man gets dangerously close to Kenny's hiding spot, but the dog suddenly loses interest and walks away, letting Kenny slip back into safety. As night begins to fall, Kenny keeps moving through the jungle, exhausted and alone. Eddie stays in contact with him, talking non-stop to keep him focused off the danger. The two even bond over the fact that they went to the same college, breaking the tension for a moment. Kenny asks again for extraction, and Eddie tells him a helicopter is close. Kenny pushes through the grass, waiting for rescue. When the helicopter finally arrives, he runs toward it, but he's suddenly ambushed. Gunfire erupts from multiple directions, forcing the helicopter to return fire and take off under heavy attack. An RPG forces it to retreat, leaving Kenny stranded once again in the middle of a firefight. Eddie responds with air support, calling in a missile strike on a large enemy group. A jet follows up with additional strikes, wiping out much of the area, but a few enemies still survive. The jet makes another pass, narrowly missing Kenny as he survives by seconds. By morning, Kenny is still moving toward the next extraction point. Eddie keeps him talking, trying to keep him steady. Their conversation turns personal. Kenny jokingly asks about Eddie's complicated family life, including his multiple ex-wives and kids. Eddie reveals he ended up in this unit after getting in trouble with a superior officer and being pulled off fighter jet duty. Suddenly, Kenny slips and falls into a river. 3 armed soldiers spot him, forcing him to fight and flee downstream. Cornered, he jumps into a waterfall and hides beneath it, managing to escape momentarily, but he is eventually captured. He wakes up in captivity, tortured and beaten. But then, out of nowhere, Sugar returns and wipes out 2 guards, rescuing him. He frees Kenny, gives him water, and reveals that Bishop is still alive but also being held captive. Though injured, Sugar refuses to give up, and together they begin gathering weapons for a counterattack. To reconnect with Eddie, Kenny climbs a tree and rigs a makeshift antenna using a water bottle to boost the signal. He manages to get through and tells Eddie they're heading back to Petro's compound to rescue Bishop. They coordinate a plan involving a bomber plane for air support. Eddie tries to stay on the mission, but the colonel orders him off due to exhaustion. Eddie argues, but the decision is final. On the ground, Kenny and Sugar move in on the enemy base. They quietly take out guards and fight their way inside the compound. A sudden gunfight breaks out in a house, and after a brutal struggle, they eliminate the enemies inside. As they push forward, more soldiers ambush them. Sugar is badly wounded while Kenny tries to drag him to safety. Even injured, Sugar keeps fighting, saving Kenny mid-battle. But another explosion hits nearby, and both are captured. They are thrown into cages along with Bishop. Sugar is barely holding on, but still refuses to give up. Kenny warns the terrorists that bombs are incoming and they need to evacuate, but they ignore him. Meanwhile, Hashimi prepares a broadcast and continues torturing prisoners, unaware that a strike is already on the way. Sugar is forced in front of the camera and, in a final act of defiance, is executed by Hashimi, still unaware he's seconds away from a bombing strike. At the same time, Kenny is being dragged through the compound and beaten while Eddie is ironically stuck in a parking lot far away, temporarily removed from direct action but still trying to influence what's happening from command. Hashimi explains why they took up arms against the West, but Kenny cuts him off, insisting that's not what matters right now. He warns them that more bombs are already heading toward their position and they need to evacuate immediately. Hashimi refuses to believe him and brutally hits Kenny in the face with a hammer. They continue torturing him, dunking him in water and demanding information about the remaining soldiers' locations. Even when Kenny insists there's no one else left, Hashimi keeps pressing him, searching for answers that don't exist. Despite the lack of intelligence, the torture continues. Back at the base, the bombers are already on their way. Kenny is still being tortured when the airstrike hits. Massive explosions rip through the building, but somehow Kenny survives. Injured and coughing, he manages to get back on his feet and searches for an escape before the next strike arrives. Inside the collapsing structure, he finds a weapon and moves through a destroyed hallway. There, he discovers a prisoner trying to break out of a cage. It's the CIA operative they were originally sent to rescue. Kenny frees him and carries him out. Nearby, he finds Hashimi still alive along with Bishop. He kills Hashimi and frees Bishop from captivity. But there's no time to rest, only 5 minutes remain before the next bombing run. Kenny desperately tries to contact command, but the signal is gone. The bombers are already approaching. He calls the base, but the operators are distracted watching a basketball game and simply give him Eddie's number instead. Eddie, meanwhile, is out shopping and receives Kenny's call, but misses it because he's already speaking with his wife. He later hears the voicemail and immediately rushes back to base. Once he arrives, he aborts the bombing run just in time, saving Kenny, Bishop, and the others. Frustrated that no one was paying attention, Eddie storms in and smashes the TV so the team will stop getting distracted. In the end, the surviving members are extracted by helicopter and finally head home after everything they've been through. After everything falls apart, Kenny ends up right in the middle of brutal interrogation while trying to warn them that airstrikes are already incoming. Instead of believing him, Hashimi pushes deeper into violence, torturing him for information that doesn't even exist anymore. But even in the middle of all that chaos, Hashimi briefly shows a crack in his mindset, realizing he's lost his morality, even if he can't stop what he's doing. While Kenny is fighting to survive underground, Eddie is completely detached from the battlefield, stuck in normal life moments like shopping and dealing with his family. That contrast makes the situation worse. War is happening in real time, but communication failures and distractions almost cost everyone their lives. In the end, it's only when Eddie finally takes control from command that the airstrike is aborted and Kenny is saved. The story closes with survival, but also with a clear message. In modern warfare, one delay, one missed call, or one distraction can decide who lives and who dies.